Welcome to another episode of Don't Call It Small. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. If you don't know me and you have no clue what this podcast is all about, let me share a bit. I'm a lead management consultant at ForemanLLC, where we provide consulting and professional development services. And Don't Call It Small is where we talk all things business, share tips and news that you can use, and highlight the people and ideas behind the products and services that we buy. To learn more about our team, please visit ForemanLLC.com. That's ForemanLLC.com. Hey everyone! Woo woo! Oh my goodness! Welcome to another episode 61. Yes! I'm glad to be here. Last week we didn't end up recording because I had a family emergency, so I didn't think that it was appropriate to podcast in that emergency during that emergency. I hope you agree. If not, shame on you. But with all seriousness, so we're going to. This is an intense episode. This is going to be split over 2 episodes. So this week and next week we'll be covering this. So I hope that you have something to take notes with. If not, you need to take some notes. I don't care if who you are, what you've accomplished, how many letters you have for designations after your name. We all learn, we all grow, we learn from different people, different experiences, from people that have different backgrounds. So there is always something that you are going to learn from me, from others. There could be something that I can say that just resonated, or it reinforced something that you dreamt about or someone has spoken to you. So with that, you never know in the ways in which that can bless you or someone else that you know, that you may say, oh my goodness, Susan and Keisha, they need to hear this, or whatever. So episode 61. I want to start off with a quote. I really don't know who originally said these words. It's where I saw it posted, it said unknown, but it says, if you want to achieve greatness, stop asking for permission. And I saw that it was attributed to Sidney Leroux. I also saw someone had given credit to Eddie Cola. Had some street art that was titled Ambition. So I don't know. One thing I do know is that great words and ideas often get recycled over time. So if you happen to know who originally said it, let me know so I can give them credit. Now, over the last 2 years, and most recently, a few episodes ago, we've discussed the Great Resignation, right? We talked about that here and on our blog. We've talked about corporate restructuring and the reality that organizations of every size are being forced to address their operational deficiencies and employment needs. And of course, they're trying to find ways to satisfy supply-demand relationship within the marketplace. Whether it's because of the pandemic or just because you've been sick and tired of being sick and tired for far too long, you may have considered a career change. Maybe you've never had a career, but rather you were roped into a series of jobs, and some were interrelated and others were vastly different. So you have a checkerboard experience with broad knowledge and skills that you're very confident in one or more areas. And then you have a patchwork of skills and knowledge base that you can draw from in other areas. Well, in this episode, and next week's episode, we're going to look at your professional development and some paths that you consider. And I won't be endorsing any particular employer, field, or industry. Rather, we're going to be looking at you because honestly, it's not so much about the organization or the industry or the field as it is about you getting grounded in yourself. You need to know what you want and need and what you want to learn and contribute before you select an organization to court or be courted by or to create as your own. Make sense? And I could have sworn there's like this quote. Yeah, there's this quote. I think I'm going to share it a little bit. Yeah, I'll share it with you in a little bit. But in simplest terms, we're going to start with the basics. There's 4 ways you can take. And I know that someone is going to be a smart aleck and be like, well, actually, Natasha, the way you described it is really 3. But I'm giving you 4 because some people need the segments. So it's 3, but it's 4. Okay. Path 1 is a career that's primarily knowledge-based. And it's one that you'll need to embrace the concept of like lifelong learning. This is something that you know that you're in this and there's an expectation that you are going to be a lifelong learner, because you're going to be expected to continue learning and gaining knowledge and skills to remain relevant, competent, and competitive, and creative and innovative. So I'm going to say that again: relevant, competent, competitive, creative, and innovative. Say that 10 times fast. And companies and your clients and customers, they're going to expect you to stay on top of the latest and greatest, the newest this and that, and have updated certifications and professional development hours, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I'm expecting the accountant, if they are a CPA, I understand that they have that higher designation, that certification. So I have higher expectations from them. I'm not expecting them to come and deliver something to me that I can do myself online, or that I can go into the Walmart and one of those tax preparers can do. Like, nah, bruh, nah, sis. So you're having higher expectations. And with that, I want you to think of other jobs and careers like in HR and IT and engineering, marketing, educators, if you get my gist. Does that make sense? All right. So then you have within the same, you're looking at a career job or sorts, right? In this segment, right? This branch is a secondary way of looking at our positions that require you to understand how a specific job function operates. These are considered skills-based. So we have our knowledge-based careers, and then we have our skills-based careers. And these are often aligned with service skills, hands-on physical skills, like a chef or someone working in construction, performers, artists, etc. And that's just to name a few, right? So skills-based careers are great for people who thrive in cross-functional roles, where you may be utilizing both skills and knowledge, like administrative professionals and lawyers and doctors. So you can have a career in either of those 2 buckets that are focusing on skills or knowledge. And then from that, we have our 3 ways in which we can generate income as an employee, or when you don't want to work for a specific company, but you want to work for various clients so that you have greater flexibility in how and where your knowledge and skills are used and applied, you can pursue 2 routes: entrepreneurship or freelancer. So we're going to start with the freelancer. And this is the path that I chose for several years, and it has an easier entry. As a freelancer, in most states, you're designated as an independent contractor. And so you're under contract with your client or customers to help with or independently complete a project or job. So they may have a project and they need your help with it, or they may say, hey, this needs to be done. Can you handle it solo? And you don't have to start a company to be a freelancer. And most people that are freelancers don't start their own company. Some do. Some choose to have that, so they have that extra level of authority or visualization or whatever. But most don't. So one pathway to freelancing is, if you're looking at, well, how do I become a freelancer? The one path that people naturally kind of come from is through our hobbies and interests. So you start off doing something for fun or because it's challenging, and you love the intangible reward you receive from doing a great job on a project you are working on. So, it could be arts and crafts or graphic design, web design, photography. And then as your passion grows, you start offering your services and products to family and friends. And maybe at first it's for free, right? Does that sound about right? Yeah. This is a stage when most of us use the limiting words. Hold on, let me get in character. This is nothing. Just a little thing I'm working on. I mean, it's nothing fancy. It's nothing big. I mean, it's nothing. I mean, Heck, I mean, no one would pay serious money for it. It's just something I do on the side, Yep, those words. That small, shrinking, minimizing, diminishing language that we default to. And women and girls do it best. And we diminish our gifts and talents so much that unless other people validate them and us, we will disempower ourselves like a balloon releasing air. Like, right? It's just shrinking into whatever. Your words, my words, our words have power. People, be mindful of how you speak about your skills, knowledge, gifts, talents, the work you do, the energy you exert, the contributions you make. You are energy. And when you release it, you're giving it power. Either to grow or to kill, to lift or to tear down, to empower or to destroy. So, you start as a hobbyist, and then a few people start endorsing your work and telling you that you should really charge for your products and services. I hope to never forget when my dad said that to me. I can't emulate his voice, but I'm just going to try to get my deep voice. Okay. You know you should be charging people for that, don't you? And voila, I became a freelancer thanks to his encouragement. And as a freelancer, you can continue working full-time or part-time for your current employer or employers, which I did. You can freelance, work as an employee for one or more companies, and be in college earning a certificate, degree, or certification. As a freelancer, you have what we used to call gig jobs. I know people still kind of reference it, but that was like the going phrase. And you take on contractual assignments that usually only are like past the length of the time required for you to complete your part. So your assignment ends at some point, right? And you're paid as a 1099 independent contractor. And I'll speak briefly about that shortly. And then I'll speak about it most likely next week on episode 62. But basically, when tax time rolls around, you're paying taxes straight out. And you can't complain about FICA or any of those other acronyms on a W-2 that an employer deducted, because now the governmental agencies are taxing you directly for the gross income received. You're being taxed like a business, even though you're not. And that's because you're not an employee. They got to get their money, all of it, from you. So you've stepped on the first rung, right? This is the first rung in the big leagues at this point. And I will say, I just mentioned accounting. You better learn that accounting software, whichever product. So I'm not shouting any specific product, but whichever accounting software, or you need to hire someone who does, because 20 to 30% of the income that you're going to get from that 1099 work is going to go to Fed, state, and wherever else it has to go, depending on your state and blah, blah, blah. Well, we'll chat about that later. So thinking back to my freelance years, as I grew more confident in my ability to form strong business relationships and wanting to expand my reach, I realized that I needed greater stability and presence in the form of my own business. So guess who encouraged and watered my seed of entrepreneurship? Yep, my dad. But here's something else. And I've shared this before on this podcast and over the years through my blogs and social media posts. I had grown up with entrepreneurs all around me and didn't realize it. I mean, my maternal and paternal grandmothers were both entrepreneurs. One was a well-known barber and the other a well-known real estate broker and investor. My paternal grandparents also formed a company where they made and sold furnishings, clocks, and more, made out of the most beautiful wood. Beautiful. And I still have a few pieces, one that was made for me and one that was passed on to me from my godfather. He was a friend and colleague of my dad's, and he had been the general counsel for the country of Mauritius. And my grandfather had made him a clock, and it was shaped as the outline of the continent of Africa. And so I remember when my godfather gave me that, as he passed it to me. He felt that it would be most appropriate for me to have. So that was a great honor. So, I have those from, and then I also have I had a maternal grandaunt. She was an entrepreneur. She owned a daycare and other businesses. I grew up with older cousins who were entrepreneurs. But as a child, growing up, I didn't identify them in that way. I just saw them working and having jobs. It wasn't until I became an adult, and in some instances, it wasn't until a few years ago that I said, wait a minute. Oh, my cousin didn't just make dresses for family weddings. She's a fashion designer with her own business. But in each example that I just finished sharing with you, they all started out doing something that they liked, that challenged them, that they were good at or even great at, and it turned into a business. I remember when my grandparents, they had a business and they had a janitorial service, and they had contracts to do janitorial cleaning, like for the different churches and stuff. I remember being in those churches as a child, cleaning these church pews and stuff. Yeah. But, thinking back to my cousin, she sewed this and that, and the more compliments she received, the more confident she became. And then she started charging for her creations, and the more sales brought her more money, and she grew in confidence. And she took the necessary steps to launch and market her business to her niche target audience. She controlled how many orders she would take and how often she would work, and so on and so forth. So from hobby to having a business that pays for your hobbies. Boom. Imagine that. The entrepreneur is focused on using their products and services to try and solve a prospective client or customer's problems, or to try and meet their unmet needs, whether they know they need it or not, whether they actually need it or not. Some people have perceived needs, and we'll talk about that shortly. You do, of course, have greater risks than the freelancer, and you will notice that you also have less free time and flexibility, which is ironic because isn't that two of the driving statements that people make when they say they want to start a business? It's like this statement that's on constant loop, and everyone just keeps picking up and using it. It's that I wanted more freedom. I don't want to work for anyone. I want to work for myself. I want to make my own schedule so I can have flexibility. I'm going to go ahead and clear up some things. I've said it before, but in case you hadn't heard any of my previous episodes for this podcast, how do I say this? As an entrepreneur, you don't work for yourself. You work for your clients, your customers. If you have employees, you work for them too. Until your business can run without your hand always being on the steering wheel, your foot on the throttle, without things having to be done with your effort and energy, then you will find that you have less flexibility and freedom than you had working 2 to 3 jobs while going to school. So for so many people, the reality is, no, I can't take that 4-week vacation, every quarter or even once a year. And if I do take a vacation, I don't even feel like I can call it a vacation because I'm working while I'm on vacation. So I'm going to redefine this and call this a working retreat. Some people do it out of guilt, right? Because they just can't handle the thought of that they're taking that time away from work, so they feel like they still need to stay connected. Other people, they have no choice but to do it. So even those trips to Disneyland or Disney World, and you sit up here and you still have your laptop and your kids are looking at you like you have lost your everlasting mind because you are taking away fun time. It happens to be the reality that you're working because work is what paid for that trip, and you just have not been able to disentangle yourself and empower your team to run the business while you're away. And if you have not built a team to allow for that operational shift, then it does rest on you. And unless you create the parameters and the boundaries and create some type of infrastructure that will give you that flexibility and that freedom to be able to take time away from your business, to put your business on pause, to say we are temporarily closed for a holiday or whatever the case may be, or unless you create up from Jump Street that this time every year operations is shut down for whatever, and we call it a company holiday, a company break, and you just embed that into the culture of your company where your customers grow to understand and appreciate, oh my gosh, they have off a week. And so we have to get our orders in before this time and understand that there's a delay after the time, or however you structured, right? But you can structure it. If you can imagine it, you can build it. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that. So let's further explore entrepreneurship. So you have to go through all the legal steps to form and start and build a company. You're going to either be a sole proprietor, a limited liability company, a partnership if you have a partner, a corporation. You could be C Corp or S Corp, or there's different designations. If you have an LLC, the IRS is going to give you the option to be a single member entity, or you can petition to be considered for tax filing as a corporation or partnership. And there's classification legalese that we can go into on another day for those of you wanting to understand what distinguishes your single member LLC from others and why the IRS doesn't acknowledge you to have the same tax protections under the law as a corporation. But that's for another day, or you could just Google it and find out. And there you go. But let's refocus on today's topic. So you have your business, and with that comes federal, state, and possibly city and county fees and taxes that can be annual, quarterly, or another arrangement. So make sure you know before you launch your company. You have overhead expenses such as rent if you're renting an office suite or space. You may have utilities, equipment costs, supplies, and more. So you have this long laundry list of categories for money to leave your bank account. Basically, these are categories to see how your money is exiting from your bank account. So you have to ensure that you are investing enough energy, and that energy is producing results, that you can have more money being deposited into that account than withdrawn, or you will find yourself out of business, out of work, right? That's what it comes down to. The amount of energy that's generated, and how that generation of energy becomes something that is tangible, executable, transferable, transactional, that can then put money into your account. If you have more coming out than coming in, you're out of business. As an entrepreneur, you can, as I mentioned earlier, you can try to do this by yourself. You can do it solo. You can have a partner or partners. And I think that the partnership topic is definitely something we need to dive into deeply, or as deeply as comfortable, in another episode. I'm not going to do it here, but I will say, when you pick your partners, you need to pick your partners like you'd pick someone to take care of your children if something happened to you. So like you would a godparent. A same level of intimacy, care, trust, and the defining qualities and characteristics that you're looking for in a person to care for your child. Your business is a baby. So who are you wanting to birth and share this baby with? And who are you willing to trust to take care of the baby when you can't, when you're not there? Because that's one relationship that can be an entanglement that can cost you more than your hairline. You see a lot of business. Some folks are losing hair, not just because of age or because heredity, is because they're stressed out. So So just understand, you risk a great deal with partnerships. I look at it as a marriage with great financial implications. And you have to be in sync. It's a dance of dances. But as I said, we'll discuss this more in another episode. So let's look at what you can do as an entrepreneur and what you're dealing with day to day. As a solopreneur, you're wearing all of the organizational hats. So I'm just going to name some hats. But you're the CEO, COO, CFO, CMO, CAO, CHRO, CTO, and everything else. Every possible hat you can be, you have. You are. You are the brains and the action figure, making things move to market, sell, promote, make, fix, design your products and services. You are customer service and the janitor. You're filling out the documents and service orders. You're taking all of the calls, answering all the emails. You're posting to social media, blogs, newsletters. What? Yes. And you're the point of contact for vendors, suppliers, and everything and everyone else. Everything. Everything rests on you. So You work on your business before your family wakes up and throughout the day and after they've gone to sleep and possibly while you're supposed to be doing work for your other employer. Because yes, some people start businesses while still employed at one or more other companies. I did it. Maybe you did it. Maybe someone else you know did it. It's the freelancer approach, but on steroids. That's how I give the visual, because the products and services are yours with your name and reputation attached to them. But unlike the world of freelancing, in freelance world, you could do work that no one ever knows you did. It's just considered work product that is integrated into the company's plan or project or whatever. You could be the masked freelancer who sweeps in to save the day and then dips out to catch a yoga class. That is no longer the case when you start your own company. It's rare that you can remain anonymous. So it's imperative that when you have a company while employed by another company, you don't slack off on your work with your employer. Trust me, you will later hire a person who will do it to you, and you'll scream bloody murder until you have one of those moments of familiarity, and then you remember why, and you're like, oh my goodness, that was me. I hired me. Yeah. Splitting your time between two or more entities requires discipline, focus, and your character will most definitely be tempted. I'm going to go deeper on this in another episode, but let me say that there's some no-nos when trying to juggle these two worlds, right? Starting your business while being employed by another business. Really quick, don't start a company that is or can be a direct competitor of the company where you are currently working. And while you're building your strategy to take some of their market share, you're getting a monthly or bi-weekly or weekly check from them. Ew, it's not just tacky and unethical, but you could also be breaching your employment contract, and it's a conflict of interest and goes against a non-compete clause that many employment contracts hold. But I mean, even with all that, consider this. How would you feel if this was done to you? How can you trust that the employee that you have hired wasn't taking intellectual property to use for their startup? So while they're working for you, they're using your intellectual property to start their business. Or what about your client list and office supplies and equipment? And I mean, the list can just keep scrolling. You're risking a huge lawsuit when you do it. That's all I'm saying. But you're also defining your character, who you are, your brand, your legacy. But let's put a pin in that, and we'll come back to that on another day. Let's continue with the rest of our conversation. So as an entrepreneur, when you find that you have more demand than you can supply and you're turning away business or putting people on super long wait lists, isn't that cool? You may have reached a point where it's time to grow your operations, so it ain't just you doing all the work. You can build a team to work with you as employees, freelancers, or other designated contractors. And I'll warn you now, as I have in previous episodes, don't play with the IRS and your state agencies on this employment contract classification. You better pay close attention to the IRS's checklist on who can be designated as an independent contractor versus an employee. And then you better see what your state agency says, because you might find yourself in a pickle and with tons of financial penalties for misclassifying workers. So we'll double back to that at some point shortly. So either today or next week or in another episode, but we will double back to that. So we have our entrepreneurs, our startups, shoot-ups, so on and so forth. And you're filling the perceived needs of clients. Remember, we talked about the perceived needs. You're filling the perceived needs of your clients, customers, and whether it's locally, regionally, nationally, possibly globally. And I said perceived needs because sometimes people don't need it, but they think they do. And so you have it and they say, oh, I need that. So whether it's actual or perceived, you're focused on filling those needs. And you might be a brick and mortar operations with limited online presence. You could be a hybrid with a strong online store that's holding its own. Or you can have 100% online only business, and it may be 100% virtual in every sense of the term, right? Your workers, everyone is spread around the country, the world. Virtually, there's just everything is in the cloud. Another option which we see a lot with consultants, mentors, trainers, coaches, designers, and other creators, is that you have a website which markets your brand and the products and services you offer, and you may not offer your office space to the public to visit. And I'm going to explain this. So you may have client meetings designated at the client site or offsite. You may have a membership at a professional club or social club, which allows you access to a boardroom or designated room where you can host meetings. You may do something like that. And that you can choose that option for a number of reasons. It could be because you have a small office space, or you're operating out of a co-working space, or you just prefer to not have clients tracing through your zone at their leisure. And I know that one of my biggest pet peeves is people popping up unannounced, either at my home or office. It's just irritating. It just really irritates me. I mean, you're killing the vibe, folks. I mean, you're messing up the flow. We're working, we're in a zone, and now you pop up unannounced. And now work has to pause to engage with you in a meaningful way for longer than what my mind can wrap around, because guess what? It wasn't a scheduled visit. I wasn't planning for you to be there. So I didn't allocate that time. I didn't say, okay, we're going to have to, put a pin in this because in 15 minutes, so-and-so is about to show up. And so we need to then switch hats, have our mind focused on that. So, I can see why there are certain people that just don't have client access to their office space. Also, going back and reiterating and reinforcing that we are energy and vessels of energy. And as these vessels of energy, we carry energy to and fro and in and out. And we're bringing energy into our zone. And so we have to be mindful of what energy we allow in the spaces where we create and problem solve and innovate and more. So if you don't have the budget for a receptionist to be that gatekeeper, and they say that, Tom's not available for, this impromptu meeting, even though they're not saying that part, right? But if you don't have a gatekeeper that can say that you're not available for an impromptu meeting, yet they're more than willing to schedule a time that works best for you and that person, then guess who will be face-to-face with the client or prospective client with absolutely no buffer? It's going to be you. It's that simple. Now, I already know there's always some smart aleck that's like, I just lock my doors. You're right. There is a benefit of locked doors. You can lock your office doors. You can lock the doors to your store. But one thing I do know is that people love to hold you to your posted hours. They love to hold you to what you have in writing. So I'm going to save you the headache now. You can go and change it this week, next week, over the weekend, whatever. You better get in the habit of saying meetings by appointment only, consultations by appointment only, viewings by appointment only, whatever it is that you do by appointment only. If you have posted hours, or even if you don't have posted hours, state that. But if you have posted hours, you better say that meetings are by appointment only or whatever. And that's just to help save you an argument, because you will have an argument. You will exhaust yourself trying to explain why your doors were locked during posted hours. So just don't do it. Because I'm telling you, someone's going to try to argue you down. Your hours say 8 to 5. I came here and the door's been locked. And I've been here for an hour and I'm calling and no one's yep. You're going to have it. I mean, I've seen instances where I've gone to a store, even a gas station, and someone has a handwritten note saying, sorry for the inconvenience, be back in 15 minutes. And there's customers outside like irate. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to the bathroom. And then what's their retort? Well, there should be more than one employee. And I'm saying it's a small business. Maybe they couldn't afford a second employee, or maybe that employee called off. And then what's their retort? Well, the manager should have been there. The owner should have been there. Okay, they're not. So you got two options. Wait until this person arrives, or take your happy-go-lucky tail and mosey on along down the street and go somewhere else. But do you see what also now is going to potentially cause an avalanche of emotional energy is when you do come to the door, that person is going to unleash their ignorance upon you when you happen to go to the bathroom, or maybe a customer overflowed the toilet and you were in there having to mop up and clean up everything, and you then couldn't keep your eyes safely on the store, hence why you had to close the store for 15 minutes or whatever. Pipes could have burst. I don't know. Anything could have happened. But that is why certain people are starting to learn to create the type of infrastructure that you need to have, and to also create a culture that your customers begin to understand that they need to respect and honor, that sometimes things change and there's flexibility and things are different, and we do things different than at company B, C, and E, okay, or X, Y, and Z. So I just wanted to spend a little time to talk about that. All right, so we've established the entrepreneur. All right, we've talked about the 2-branch career way. We've talked about how that segments through being an employee, how that segments into being a freelancer, and now we've looked at an entrepreneur. So, nestled in that, let me know what you think. Now, we've covered those pathways and areas. And on next week's episode, we're going to focus on skills and experience as tied to our professional development, and how we go about building the bridges and springboards to catapult us to the next level of growth. And that one's going to go a little deep. That one's going to peel back some layers even more. I will say that be ready for it. Be ready for it. I don't do well with trying to filter and I don't do well with sugarcoating and all that other stuff. I really feel that this is one way that Foreman & Associates can invest into people to be able to provide access to information and resources that you're not paying for, right? It's your way to be able to pick our brain for free, because them days of picking my brain and picking, our team's brain for free so that you can just run off. No, them days are done. You better listen to this podcast, read our blogs, subscribe to the newsletter, sign up for future training courses, professional development, whatever. Pay for our services. But this is one way that we can be able to invest. And before we wrap up, I want to shout out some businesses and professionals that have made the decision to turn their interest in their hobbies and passions and their exciting challenges and ideas into careers and businesses, and in ways they can invest in society. And this, once again, is our investment, right? Taking the time and making the time to seek out these companies to share with all of you. So first up, I want to share a company. It's called Set in Soul. Set in Soul, Soul. So their website is setinsoul.com. They're on Instagram at Set in Soul. Amazing, empowering and uplifting healing journals that are used to heal and celebrate you inside and out, and feel peace and love and feel confident. That's what the website says. And FYI, they don't handle customer service requests through social media DMs. So I'm letting you know now. And honestly, that really should be your focal point for most of your engagement on social media. Stop reaching out to companies, for the most part, to handle customer service requests, unless they tell you or unless they have a designated customer service handle, which companies that do will have a designated handle. They don't handle customer service usually through their main branch handle. So I'm just saying. Set in Soul, amazing. The author, Tatiana Jerome, started this business, and on her website, she said, quote, "When you can find your voice, embrace your fears, and trust in the love that the soul provides, you are brought closer to your purpose." Oh my goodness. She has over 47 journals to choose from to help you through your journey facing depression, cancer, trauma, a relationship that has ended. She has journals for adoptive children and adoptive parents, money management, self-acceptance, when you're trying to conceive, and so much more. Just beautiful, beautiful, empowering, uplifting, and healing journals. She has some beauty products that I believe are coming soon. And she has this really cute, bold, beautiful wrapping paper representing the queen you are, or the queens in your life, or oh my goodness, they're beautiful. She has these ink pens that have motivational messages, and I know that more is manifesting as I speak. Tatiana Jerome, I just love the fact she just embraced that energy, and she has poured it through these journals. And so with that, I hope that you will visit her website, setinsoul.com. Follow her on social media. Of course, as every episode, this information will be provided in the description of this episode, as well as shared on our blog and through our social media accounts. So Tatiana Jerome at Set in Soul. Our next shout out is author, youth motivational speaker, and 3 times, I repeat, 3 times TEDx presenter, Ty Allen Jackson. You can visit his website, Ty Allen with ALLAN Jackson.com, TyAllenJackson.com. On Instagram, he's at Ty_Allen_Jackson. He's written books for children, teaching them how to earn and save and invest money. He has the cutest book series, the Super Duper Kid book series, where you have Javon Williams, who ends up with superpowers and becomes Super Duper Kid. And he faces various challenges like the villainous dark matter. That's in that second book series. And he has a book that's called When I Close My Eyes. And that book is about a little girl named Dot who explores the world in her dreams. So sweet. And then he wrote a book that's called You Are Amazing, I Am Amazing. And it introduces young readers to affirming words that boost self-esteem. He also has merchandise. He's got some merch. He has hoodies and backpacks and t-shirts that say read or else. I love that. You guys, I'm a bookworm, so I love that. And he has Super Duper Kid t-shirts and more. What's also really cool is that he has guides. He has guidebooks for educators to assist them with sharing and teaching from his stories. And all of the guides are aligned with Common Core standards. So boom, you can just bring that right into the classroom. Ty also appears on Marvel's Hero Project on Disney Plus. So be sure to go to his website. And he also, I believe he provided information on his Instagram. And he has a Danny Dollar Academy, which is a financial literacy program for children. So go to his site to see how to bring it to your child's school. And yes, in case you're wondering, you can book Ty to speak at your school, workshop, corporate event, graduations, and more. Visit TyAllenJackson.com for details. All right. Now, next up, last but not least, I want to shout out a friend and associate of mine, Ronnie Delgard. He's the founder and CEO of Global Paint Solutions and Global Paint for Charity. You can visit, I'm going to give you all of their information, globalpaints.org. You can follow him on Instagram at RonyDelgarde. And then their Instagram for Global Paint is at Global Paint. Their phone number is area code 855-853-7772. That's toll free, 855-853-7772. Now, Mr. Delgard arrived in the United States from Haiti. He had a Bible and $5. Talking about walking on faith. And he is not only a founder and CEO, he's also an author, a college lecturer. He's a winner of various awards for the amazing work that he and his team do. He's a management consultant, and he is esteemed for his method for success that's called PAINT, PAINT. It stands for Passion, Association, Idea/Impact, Need, and Time. Passion, Association, Idea/Impact, Need, and Time. PAINT. He's been featured in various magazines and on multiple national news outlets, including CNN. And I definitely want to have you look closely at his global nonprofit. So, did you know that most developing countries don't have paint? People usually make color powders from fruits and vegetables that they mix with dissolved river stones and soil that were heated using wood stoves. And it creates a mixture, a colorful mixture that they then use as paint. So they created, that's a hack, right? That's the hack of hacks. And Global Paint saw this need, and they go around collecting unwanted paint from people and businesses, and they redistribute it to those in need domestically and internationally, whether for family homes or to beautify schools or, different or communities. And so Ronnie and his team, they won the Energy Globe Award in 2017 for their environmental work. And I know you're wondering now, I know you're excited. You're like, how can I get involved? Well, let me share some of the ways. So you can make a 100% tax deductible donation. You can volunteer even 3 hours of your time to paint for the elderly and widows or, other people that are in need and make a huge impact, right? Beautifying, someone's home or community. 3 hours, minimum, maximum, however you want to look at it. You can become a partner with Global Paints. You can organize a paint drive or host a paint project between your company and GBC. You can, if you or someone is in need of a container of paint, there's something else that's really cool is that you can request the paint from them, and all you need to do is raise the funds. You just need the funds for shipping and handling, and they can get you. And I'm not talking about like a little can of paint. I mean the big old containers, those commercial size containers of paint. Yes. Is that not awesome? So those are the 3 companies that I'm shouting out today. I hope that you will take the time to go and research them. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. It's one of the ways, as I stated earlier, that we invest back into you and others, and we hope that you will pay it forward by investing in your family, your network, neighborhood, company, or wherever. Let's keep pouring positive energy into each other, and when we do, we'll find that we're always full, right? We're not lacking. So it's that time. Oh my goodness. It is that time. It's that time again. It's time to wrap up and go our separate ways until next week. If you have any questions or suggestions about this show, please email them to us at don'tcallitsmallbiz@gmail.com. I want to give you a quote. I want to share a quote with you. And it says, it's from Adil Ahmed, that says, the minute you decide you want better for yourself is the minute the entire universe begins to shift in your favor. Your declaration, command, intentions, and prayers begin the creation of the new reality. All you have to do today is decide and never look back. Never look back. With that, be sure to check us out on Facebook at Foreman and Associates, and on Instagram and Twitter at ForemanLLC. Our podcast Twitter handle is It Ain't Small. Be sure to also follow us and share us with your friends, colleagues, and family. And you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Natasha L. Foreman. Reach out to me, say hello, share your story. I look forward to meeting you. I want to make sure I give proper credit for our show theme song. It's called Higher Up, and it's by Shane Ivers. Thank you so much for tuning into the Don't Call It Small Business podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. And don't forget what I tell you on each and every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. I will see you here for episode 62 next week. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day and week.